Hello, my name is Latia Robinson, and I would like to present to you work family conflict and burnout amongst call center employees. This is with Liberty University for PSYC 826 Contemporary Topics in Industrial and Organizational Psychology. I would first like to start with providing you with an order of the presentation. We will start with the introduction to the topic that I have selected for research, and then we will go into section 1 where we'll discuss the terms work, family conflict, and burnout. Will then lead into literature and the gap in research. Section 2 will place us into an area where we will discuss in depth how I would like to conduct the research. So we will review the purpose of the research questions, and the method. Section 3 will provide information about the future implications. Biblical integration will then lead into the conclusion, and then you will be able to review the references. So the purpose of this presentation is to propose a study to analyze work-family conflict and burnout as it pertains to call center employees. And call center employees can be required to answer or make many calls per hour and being continuously distributed with little to no control over whom they speak with or who they assist during the phone calls. And this information was provided by Geraldi's and colleagues of 2019. For contact center professionals working like this continuously and chronically under the influence of diverse stressors, burnout may arise, and it is a result of their work circumstances. So what I would like to do is research what those stressors are and what can be done to decrease the gap in research as it pertains to call center employees. And also provide implications that could create change for the employees and organizations. Before I discuss some literature, I would like to provide a definition of what work-family conflict is. And as professionals, it is believed that work life is important. However, sometimes that can get away from the fact that family is also very important as well. And sometimes the two do conflict, and it does not match up, and there's an imbalance between the two. Work-family conflict has been stated to be a concept that has been researched for years and continues to increase in relevancy, and that was stated by Barriga and colleagues of 2021. A definition that I found was from Haynes and colleagues of 2013, and it states that work-family conflict is a specific form of role conflict in which the pressures from work and family roles are mutually incompatible. To start our literature review for work-family conflict and burnout, there is a study by Blanche and Alua who researched the sex differences and the possibilities of different demands, decisions, and other factors. And in the study, there were Spanish workers who were provided with questionnaires, and it was a total of 339 participants. All of them were either married or within a couple. And the study found that women needed more social support from their supervisors than men. Shields and Chen informed that burnout can be correlated with the job dissatisfaction, turnover, absenteeism, and diminished work performance. They conducted a study with 89 participants, and they were able to acquire these from an online advertisement. They completed a questionnaire, which was the adapted to family conflict scale, and also the burnout inventory. There are some things that can be considered for incorporating in the workplace, which can be facilitating a workplace with support from supervisors and coworkers and increasing work engagement. Another study informs us that the employees who were able to express how they feel actually had less job stress and less burnout within the organization. Taylor and colleagues provide additional information about how workaholism, employee burnout, mediated by workforce family conflict, has a connection and that it is very problematic. I thought it was important for me to inform as to why I selected to focus on call center employees. And a couple of reasons are that due to the growth in the industry for call centers, and this has been a change also since COVID-19. A lot of organizations who were able to work face to face with their clients did have to possibly change over to speaking with them over the phone, causing a different change or a different dynamic for the organization. And the growth of these, or the additional pressures on employees, has caused an increase in tasks, and then this caused an increase of higher demands for the employee. Some things that may cause burnout for the call center employees would be the continuous amount of phone calls that they may receive. Now, for some organizations, and as an example, my previous position that I carried, we would have to take calls back to back to back, and then we would have maybe a 15-minute break. Then we would continue to take calls, and we may have our lunch for 30 minutes, and then one more 15 throughout the day. So, you have an 8-hour shift, and you have these breaks that are added up to an hour. And then some organizations have it to where everything is very strict with the time. So if you have to, have an emergency and have to go to the bathroom, you would have to go into personal time, which causes for your adherence to be decreased for the day. So if you're trying to meet a certain percentage for adherence, say 92%, but you have had to go to the bathroom, multiple times a day, and you've had to step away from your desk a couple of times, then this could cause your adherence to drop, which also could cause you to stress. So there are several things that you have to look at with these organizations. All are not the same, but that was just an example of what a day would be like for a call center employee. Getting back into the literature, I would like to start by reviewing a study by Geraldine and colleagues of 2019. And they wanted to evaluate the role of effective commitment in the relationship between work-personal life conflict and burnout in the contact center environment. They provided surveys to the participants, which were 2,055 individuals, and within this large contact center, they provided a 14-item survey as well as the Maslow Burnout Inventory Survey. And what they were able to find was that the relationship between work-family conflict and burnout was positive, and that it heightened the feelings of exhaustion and cynicism. The next study that was provided by Fernando and colleagues of 2020 reviewed the effect of psychological capital on the relationship between burnout and job demand. To explain what psychological capital is, it is an individual's qualities that support an employee's competency, which include things like resilience, self-efficacy, hope, and optimism. And there was a questionnaire that was provided to 156 participants for this particular research study. And some things they were able to find was that the job demands were significantly negatively correlated with burnout, and that psychological capital and burnout did not provide a significant difference. The last study on this slide that we will discuss is going to be provided by E-Roll and colleagues of 2014, where they provided 201 call center employees with surveys, and that would have been the Maslow Burnout Inventory Survey as well. The data collection method was by questionnaire, comprised of demographic characteristics and environmental factors of the work environment. And the research found that some of the factors included 95% of the call center employees believed that their workplace was too noisy. And this is one of the stressors that they had to deal with that basically caused an addition to burnout. 47.8% of the employees felt as though they were under great stress at work as well. Now, identifying that emotional exhaustion and depersonalization scores of the employees were at middle range, and personal accomplishment scores were at a low range. And it was also found that a noisy workplace, a disturbance due to noise, feeling one's under the stress at workplace was among the factors that affect the emotional exhaustion negatively. The next section of literature will be concerning the burnout for nurses and COVID-19 burnout. For the first article, we will review. This article investigated the mediating effect of sleep disturbance and effect of the mental health for nurses. And there was 156 nurses that were participants for this study. The researchers used survey data, and the point of the study is to possibly assist nurse managers to flexibility for work schedules to avoid effects of sleep disturbances. The results showed that there was a significant difference in burnout depending on the things like gender, work experience, and current position, and also shift work. It was found that women had a higher perception of burnout, and individuals who worked 8 hours had perception of burnout, had a lower perception of burnout than 12-hour shifts. Overall, it was indicated that work-family conflict was positively correlated with burnout and sleep disturbance. The results from this showed that work-family conflict was not directly related to burnout. The second study consisted of 134 nurses as participants, and they were investigating or examining work and family demands as predictors of work-family conflict and burnout among registered nurses in Ghana. And the findings of this article was able to show that the work hours and weekend hours are important, along with understanding that having older dependents at home can be considered as interference. Also, burnout is associated with integrating the family and work roles. The employees with a strong sense of social belongingness and experience less work-family conflict, and in turn report lower levels of burnout. This was found in the August study. The research believed that both the instrumental leadership and a sense of social belongingness represent organization resources that enable individuals to manage the increased demands COVID-19 placed on navigating work and family activities, and in turn, it mitigated employee burnout. Conflict between work and other life responsibilities, such as family, is an important aspect of stress and burnout. I would like to briefly go over some limitations that were presented in the previous studies. First one being study samples or the population. Being able to conduct research over more than one organization would be helpful. Self-evaluation measures is also a limitation for some studies, and collecting data at a single point or cross-sectional issues for data collection. There are several gaps in research pertaining to call center employees. However, my focus on and what coincides with my research questions is the lack of research about the factors that cause burnout for them. Going into other gaps about certain stressors, like in the Fernando study, they identified that there was a lack of research about the relationship between psychological capital and job demands for call center employees. Another gap includes the lack of literature on self and treating self as an outcome variable. The last gap that I will provide is the lack of research for the mental state and quality of life of call center employees, which include things like compassion, satisfaction, burnout, and compassion fatigue. The purpose of this study is to research what the relationship between work-family conflict and burnout is with call center employees. It is also to provide resources that could assist with the decrease of the issue. The proposed research questions are: what is the relationship between work-family conflict and burnout for call center employees? And what are some of the stressors that cause burnout for call center employees? For data collection, it will be randomized. The participants have been sent out an email via the organization's email portal, and it will also have an informed consent form presented to them, and then the individuals can decide if they would like to participate or not within the study. Now, surveys that will be provided to the participants are the Adaptive Work-Family Conflict Scale, which will analyze work-family conflict, the Maslow Burnout Inventory General Survey to analyze the burnout, and Areas of Work-Life Survey to measure both the extent and likely cause of the burnout. In continuance for the proposed research method, this is a quantitative study due to all the data collecting being surveys. A sample size is 50 participants from each financial institute, so 100 individuals, and from the account services department is where we have also selected these individuals from. A one-way ANOVA is being conducted using a SPSS software, and descriptive statistics will also be provided as well. Future implications that could be provided is that organizations can review to identify burnout and provide policies and procedures. So any additional resources could be a positive in order to assist with the decrease of burnout. We can also organize and optimize the demands of a position and pay additional attention to the position tasks. This may include decreasing the amount of tasks that one employee has for a certain position. Supporting social belongingness. This was something that was reviewed previously within the presentation with prior research, stating that some employees may need additional support from their colleagues or their leadership in order to decrease with burnout and work-family conflict. Instrumental leadership could also assist with decrease of work-family conflict. Monitoring the psychological state of the workers, and it could be integrated into workplace wellness programs. Now, this option for implication could be a little more costly than others, but it is a great option, being that you're able to understand if your employees are having any issues in that area for burnout or for work-family conflict. Future implications that can be used to decrease work-family conflict and burnout can include organizations being able to review and identify burnout by providing policies and procedures. Also, organize and optimize the demands of a position and pay additional attention to a position's task. Also, a factor is support social belongingness, and this is found in an Allgood study, and they were able to provide that with the decrease of work-family conflict and burnout, it goes hand in hand with having instrumental leadership as well. Monitoring the psychological state of the workers is also an option, and it could be integrated into workplace wellness programs. God wants us to rest because it is useless continuing to work all the time, morning into night. And because burnout is a factor, we should also consider the fact that although individuals overwork themselves, it is not what God really wants us to do. We must be mindful of the Word of God and place our worries in His hands. And because people believe that the more money that they make, the more better off that they'll be, but money isn't what we need to be focused on. Now, due to the continued stressors that people place on themselves to make ends meet, especially now since we have experienced inflation, it is easy to place money at the forefront. Now, Philippians 4:13 says that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, meaning that when an individual does go through a phase of burnout or is having issues balancing work and family, that they should cast all their cares to God because He knows the path that we should take. And He continues to provide us with the strength that we need to go on. In conclusion, we have reviewed what work, family conflict, and burnout are. We then dove into the literature, which included some information about work, family conflict, and burnout as it pertains to call center settings. We also discussed other literature, which included nursing and COVID-19 burnout. After I provided you with my research proposal, and after I provided some implications that could assist organizations with a decrease for work-family conflict and burnout. After we discussed biblical connection or biblical integration. I do hope that I provided some new or interesting information to you all. Please reach out if you have any questions for me concerning my presentation. Thank you, and God bless you throughout your educational journey.